You're listening to a podcast from 702.
Okay. Let's now focus on our unhealthy relationship with alcohol and the effect of the lockdown. And I want us to have an honest conversation here. Give me a call and tell me about your relationship with alcohol. How healthy or unhealthy is it? And how are you dealing with that? 011-883-0702. It's for our health and wellness feature. And I'm joined for this conversation by Jeanette Gorant, who's the founder of World Without Wine. Jeanette, thank you so much for your time.
Hello, Clement. Delighted to chat to you.
Thank you so much, Janet. Let's begin by discussing that unhealthy relationship that we may have with alcohol. What are some of the possible root causes of heavy drinking here in our country?
Oh, Clement, well, I think you have to go back in time, really, don't you? I mean, it's got very deep roots in the history. We've got the DOP system, where the labourers were paid in cheap wine. And then I think that must have been aggravated by the socio-economic conditions of the time, which of course still prevail. So it's very, very deep. And I'm sure you know the stats here, but nearly 20% of the population engage in binge drinking. We've got this thing that starts on Friday, it goes on all weekend. And alcohol, like everywhere in the world, it's not just South Africa, but alcohol has become so normalised. We've all become conditioned to believe that we can't really have a full and happy life if we don't drink. So there's many, many factors. And the marketing industry, the wine industry is a great example. They've done a stunning job at convincing us ladies that, we can't really enjoy our lives unless we have wine in it. And I know a lot of women would hate the thought of a world without wine, such as the one that I live in. But I was like that, just a few years ago. I couldn't imagine my life without alcohol. And I certainly didn't realize it could be better.
And how did you realize that, Jeanette? So, in other words, I'm asking you to help us also realize if we're drinking too much. What's the test?
Oh, yes. Well, I was pretty sure for years I was drinking too much. I'd got to the stage where I'd have the odd blackout, and I wouldn't get through a day without having a drink at some point. And but like many, many people, I was stuck. I knew that I was drinking too much, and I was frightened of what it must be doing to my body and my brain. But I had no idea how to stop. And it was only when, I finally got some help that worked for me. I tried various things, but something did work. And then I got sober, and now I spend my time helping other people get there.
That's incredible.
But,
so,
to answer your question, perhaps, I can give you some little tests, that people should ask themselves, some little questions if they're worried. Certainly at our current time, we should, if you're one of those, I know we didn't get any notice for the second alcohol ban, but we did for the first. So were you one of those people queuing, at the liquor store the day before the ban to stock up? And did you stock up? And now I had a lady that contacted me just yesterday, and she said, I was very organised for the first ban, and I had lots and lots of wine. But this time, I've only got a few bottles left and it's running out, and I'm absolutely panicking. So if you're anxious that your supply will run out, that's a big worry. And I think many people don't know what the limits are. They're not very widely talked about here in South Africa, but from UK, where I'm from, we would have a lot of kind of education about the fact that drinking more than 1.5 bottles of wine a week was likely to damage your health. And we all kind of knew that. Not that it made a lot of difference to people like me, but I think here, when I tell people that at my workshops, that they look quite surprised, so I don't think there's enough education. So if you are drinking more than that, then more than 6 beers a week, then you could be harming your health. And another question, has your consumption increased over the years? Because alcohol's been designed to be addictive. So 20% of regular drinkers will become dependent over the years. So don't feel bad if you are dependent, because it happens to millions of us. And if your consumption increases, I mean, mine, when I was in my 20s, I'd have a glass of wine in an evening. In my 30s, it was 2, and then by my 40s, it was a bottle every evening, and that's far too much.
So it's like the older you get.
Another danger sign is if you drink alone.
Yeah.
You know, people get to the stage, especially in our current situation, where you're almost building a relationship with the alcohol. You know, you're sitting there with your bottle of wine and your movie, and you're not connecting with others. And that's a danger, because what do they say? They say connection is the opposite of addiction. And although it's really difficult at the moment, we have to find ways to connect with others. You know, even if it's online, we can't hide away with our booze. It's not good.
Mm-hmm. So I'm listening to all these questions, and I want to invite the listeners to also maybe do this test with me, Janet, because I really want to see if I also have a problem. And I'm taking calls on 011-883-0702. So you've asked did you stock up alcohol before the ban was introduced? And my answer is yes, I did stock up. And am I anxious that my supply will run out? Yes, I am anxious. Your second question was, do you drink more than a bottle and maybe a bottle and a half of wine or 6 beers a week? For me, the answer is no, because I can go a week, I can go a month, I can go 3 months without drinking. Has your consumption increased over the years? My answer would be no, because, I haven't really started drinking more. Do you drink alone? Yes, sometimes. Do you drink for the buzz? What does that mean? Because that's another question that some people will ask, if you want to determine if you are drinking too much. So does it mean, do you drink just so you can get drunk?
Yes, and not even to that extent, perhaps. I mean, I was someone that was certainly chasing the buzz. And those of us that are dependent will have 2 or 3 glasses of wine, and then we'll really love how we feel. So we'll carry on drinking, trying to prolong that buzz. But unfortunately, it doesn't really work, because it just brings you down. But people that are not dependent, people like yourself, I can already tell you, Clement, you're not dependent. But people like yourself, you'll have 1 or 2 glasses of wine, 1, maybe 2 beers, and then you won't carry on, because you will have had enough. So that's, those 20%.
We've lost that call. All right, let's try and reestablish that line to Janet. And because I want to know, because then I've only answered out of the 5 questions. Do you drink for the buzz? No, I wouldn't say I drink for the buzz. I really drink because I enjoy the glass of wine or whatever I'm having. It's not because I really want to get drunk, So I've answered yes to the 2 questions. I've answered no. So that means out of the 5, I've only answered 2 yeses. And I wonder what that means, because, Janet was telling us that this is a test that you can use. And maybe you can call me and tell me how you are doing according to this test. And do you think you're drinking too much? How are you dealing with that? Janet, I was saying that out of the 5 questions, I have answered yes to, did you stock before lockdown, and are you anxious about your supply running out, and do you drink alone? So those are the 2 questions then I've answered yes to. What does that mean then, now that I've got 2 of these 5 questions that I've answered yes to? Does it mean that I need to start reconsidering my relationship with alcohol?
No, not at all, because you answered that you don't drink more than a bottle and a half of wine a week, or more than 6 beers a week. So that's probably the most important thing. If you'd like to know where those questions come from, not the pandemic ones, because obviously I tacked them on, but there was a very interesting book published in 2012 by 2 doctors, and they identified a syndrome called the almost alcoholic. And they're kind of thinking, they say that as a society, as a global society, we like to put people in boxes. So at one end of a spectrum, we have the non-drinker, and at the other end, we have the alcoholic. The alcoholic, we envisage them as the kind of homeless man in the park clutching his bottle. But in fact, in between those two extremes, there's millions of us. And that's where you find the 20%, moving towards that alcoholic end. So I think that's a great way to look at this issue. It's not, you shouldn't wait until you have a rock bottom or wait until you're an alcoholic. If you feel you're getting a bit more dependent, then do something about it.
I actually have an SMS here from someone who says, my relationship with alcohol is complicated lately, after trying to cook. And I had just had a few and I slept. My stove was on from 2 a.m. until 7 a.m. I'm very disappointed at myself. I'm taking a break till further notice. I still have few problems with alcohol, but it can't control me. I am in charge. So that person admitting there that maybe that relationship with alcohol needs to be considered. Would you say the lockdown has driven people to drink more, Jeanette?
I think so. I mean, from my personal experience, I've found that people that don't drink much anyway, they don't drink at all, and they're not really bothered. But the people that do have an issue, they've managed to get hold of the booze and they're drinking more because, it does make us anxious. But in fact, alcohol increases our anxiety. And with this virus around, there's obviously so many reasons we shouldn't be drinking because it weakens our immune system. And if we are unlucky enough to get the virus and we're drinking heavily, we're probably going to be more seriously ill than if we have a strong immune system and can kind of shrug it off. So many reasons. But your SMS person, they said taking a break. I mean, that is a fabulous thing to do now and again. Even if you don't think you've got a problem, just take a break from alcohol because alcohol is so toxic that just taking a month off will give you considerable health benefits. And the other benefit of taking a break is, of course, you're testing your dependency. So, that's what we do at World Without Wine. We offer people the opportunity to take a break and to be in touch with other people who are on the same break, because that's so helpful to know that there's other people on this path and other people that might be struggling a bit.
So what can people do then if they realize that they're drinking too much? I know you're doing some incredible work with the World Without Wine, the Sober Spring Challenge for 2020. So what is it that someone can do when they're realizing that my relationship with alcohol is problematic?
Yeah, I mean, it's important to take a break. And our Sober Spring Challenge is really popular. This is the third year that we've done it. And it's interesting because, we've got dry January and things like that. But the Sober Spring Challenge, we designed it to last 66 days. And the reason it's 66 days is because that's how long it takes to form a new habit. So if you can hang on for 66 days, then you're likely to break any dependency that might be there. And indeed, we've got people that have done our Sober Spring and they never drink again. But that's not the purpose of it. The purpose of it is to give people community and online support for 66 days. So that, third Sober Springs Challenge, when does it begin? Is it on the 1st of September? The 1st of September, yeah. So people just need to go to worldwithoutwine.com and it's on the homepage.
And what kind of assistance, maybe even online or audio support you offer? If people want to get in touch? Well,
the online, everybody's on a WhatsApp group. We call it our Sober Bus. So they're on the WhatsApp group. They're all chatting every day. And, of course, they're going through it on the same days. And on a Saturday afternoon, we have a Zoom chat that they're invited to. And because this year I've started a podcast, I've decided that the 66 emails that we send out to people, that I'll read those. So there'll be a little mini podcast every day. And, so it's online, audio, and WhatsApp support. And a bit of Zoom thrown in. But that connection is so important. It's really hard to make a change alone. And that's why I was stuck for years, because I was kind of ashamed of my problems, so I didn't want to talk about it. But I kept trying to cut down and to stop, and it was hopeless. But once I connected with other people, I just kind of smashed it quite quickly.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Janet Gorant is the founder of World Without Wine, speaking to us about this unhealthy relationship we may have with alcohol. I've got an SMS here from someone who says, "Hi Clement, I decided to quit at the very first lockdown. I've been trying to quit with no luck, so the lockdown helped me. I've never been happier. My energy levels are high. I'm not exhausted most of the time, and I love this feeling of fresh, and I'm not sick." And then somebody else says, "Clement, the purpose of imbibing on alcohol is to get drunk, nothing else. There's nothing like moderate drinking. Otherwise, what's the point of drinking?" This is an SMS from Zibuse. Really? Is that the case, Zibuse? I'm not so sure.